This is for photographers and for videographers. This has nothing to do with post-production. This is all going to be in production things you can do when you're on the field shooting to make your shots and videos look better. My name is Keenan Jackson. I'm a 20-year-old filmmaker, videographer, and director, and I'm about to teach you some sauce on how to really spice up your sports videos. So guys, here's the deal. Even if you already shoot sports, stick around. You might learn something. If not, I'm sorry for wasting your time. If you're asking about my credentials, I'm not just a filmmaker. I'm actually a very motivated sports videographer. I'm going to my third year on the team at Ithaca Athletics. I have a pretty good understanding. I'm still not the best. I'm still trying to get way better. There's some guys who are just insane. But, I think I'm pretty good, at least good enough to give you guys a few tips to help you out on your next game. First tip that I'm going to give you is faces. Faces, number one. A lot of the time, newer photographers and videographers, this kind of goes to photographers more, I think, a little bit. But when you're new, you're always behind everything, which is fine because you're kind of a little bit scared. You don't really want to move around as much. But as you get more comfortable with a sport and more comfortable with a team or a location, you can kind of move around a little bit more. And by doing that, you can get in front of more players. And the reason I bring this up is because I see so many photos of the backs of helmets, like so many, or the backs of heads. I used to do this all the time. I've had times where literally the entire intro of a video is just the back of people's heads. Like no one cares about the back of your head. Like, I'll throw up two photos right now. Here's one, and here's another one. What photo looks better? Obviously, it's the one with the face on it. The face gives you emotion, and it gives you individuality like that, whereas the back of a helmet is just the back of a helmet. Now, I'm not saying don't take photos of helmets or the back of helmets. That still can look really good and have its place. But I noticed that newer photographers and newer videographers don't focus on the front of players' faces as much as they should. So instead of being behind, try to know where they're going to be and get in front of them and shoot towards them instead of behind them. Next point that I'm going to bring up is sometimes emotion is more important than action. In fact, a lot of the time that's just true. Photographers and videographers, your job literally is to capture emotion. That is literally what you are doing. And obviously, you capture action in sports, you're capturing action sports. That's kind of your point. However, I see too many times where there just isn't enough emotion from any of the players. Now, it's tough because sometimes you get a team that kind of just sucks. It's like even though they scored a goal, they don't actually care. Like, what are you doing? But if you get a team with a lot of emotion, that's a lot of fun. Really take advantage of that. That means instead of shooting, for instance, in basketball, a lot of the times I would never shoot the bench, but I started shooting the bench specifically after I got enough threes to use in my edit. I would start shooting the bench just so you could get that when they go up and they give the three and they get all hyped when one of their teammates hits the nastiest fadeaway jumper you've ever seen. Definitely focus on emotion more than you can. One of my favorite shots ever is the players running off the bench or off the sideline when the whistle blows, or after a goal, not even the goal itself, but just the celebration of the goal itself. I see too many action shots and not enough like jumping shots or, cheering shots or yelling shots. And granted, those are harder to get, but if you can get those emotion shots, you're going to just level up your game so much more. Now, my third tip is kind of angled more towards videographers, but photographers can, I guess, kind of use this if they want, for sure, to kind of get a specific look, but this is more angled towards videographers. Guys, if you shoot sports and you don't have an ND filter, you need to go on Amazon right now, and you need to buy one, like yesterday. And the reason for that is if you don't know, an ND filter stands for neutral density filter. An ND filter is kind of the most universal lens filter that you can use besides like a polarizer or a UV filter. And what it does is it lets you adjust exposure without touching the other three settings that affect exposure. Now, if you don't know what those three settings are, you probably should, but those settings are ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. So those are the three things that affect your exposure. And oftentimes, if you're shooting in super bright, mid-sunny afternoon conditions, your video is going to be overexposed, so you're going to have to crank your shutter speed, which you don't want to do. So yeah, get an ND filter if you can, and that's going to also allow you to shoot at that buttery cinematic 24 frames that we all know and love that makes your content look really good. If you guys have any questions at all, I know ND filters are kind of confusing if you don't understand them already, but I tried to do my best. It basically just lets you control your exposure, so you can set your settings to anything you want. And my last and fourth favorite tip for shooting sports is using foreground. Use it way more than you want to use it because it just looks awesome. It creates depth in your shot, and it just looks so cinematic, and you can come up with way better frame compositions. The things with shooting sports is you're typically far away, right? That's just how it is. So unless you have a really good lens, you're not going to really have that much depth because the players are far away and the field is far away. Everything's far away, right? But if you can use depth, use the crowd, maybe use a bleacher, use a bench, use a goalpost, something to put in between the lens and the player you're shooting, it's awesome. So what I also like to do is shoot a player out here and see if I can get him over the shoulder of another player to put that shoulder in there and get depth. Here are some examples of me using this technique in some photos I took. It just creates a sense of depth that you really want in any photo you can get it in. And the reason you want to do it in sports is because, like I was saying, everything is really far away. So if you can do that in video or photo, it's just going to level up your content a lot. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you learned something. If you did, that's great. If you didn't, all right, that kind of is whatever. I guess I'll have to make cooler videos. But this is targeted to all those newer sports creatives who are starting and don't really know how to level up their game. Here are 4 tips that I hope helped out. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll see you next Thursday. And if you're not a sports videographer at all and you just thought that was a complete waste of time, I really appreciate you for sticking around and watching this whole video. It means a lot. I'm looking to drop, stuff on this channel that's kind of not just, it's not just going to be sports stuff. It's stuff I like. So behind the scenes, film. I'm going to talk about more film stuff later down the line. If you guys want to see any tutorials, if you have any questions at all, drop them in the comments. I read all of them because there's only a few because I'm not that popular yet, but that's fine. Keep being great, keep creating, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So